Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to the first session of this summer's Rubin Data Academy. It comes to you on an exciting day. Today is the day when the first on-sky data from LSST will be released. Data Preview 1 coming a little bit later. I am Jeff Carlin. I'm a member of the community science team at Rubin. A few other CST members are present on the Zoom right now. So if you have questions, we'll be monitoring the chat and responding to those. And we are here to help you. All right, so let's get rolling. Today it's going to be, oops, if I can advance slides. Today is a getting started with the Rubin Science platform in the first hour, and then we will introduce Data Preview 1 in the next hour, followed by an hour of drop-in Q&A. If you have any questions or things you would like to discuss, we will be available for that hour. We're focusing the Data Academy this summer mostly on beginner level use of the science platform, so new users especially can get familiar and start using the on-sky data products that'll be available later today. So today again, it's the basic overview, and we'll repeat those tomorrow. But you see that each day after today, each day we have parallel sessions. So you can choose to attend one of the introductory sessions or one of the more advanced sessions. And I should note that this schedule is available on the website that is linked here, and there are descriptions of each of the sessions on that website. And you can also see then we have short sessions each day this week, and then we repeat the same sessions in what are evening hours where I am in Southern California, to accommodate a global audience in various time zones. So these will basically be a repeat, but of course you're welcome to attend any and all of the sessions. Okay, so today we're going to just cover basics about how to get started with the science platform, how to get help or issue resolution if needed, some basics about data access, and then I'm going to do a very quick whirlwind of how to get started with the RSP, the science platform, in case you're not familiar. One thing to keep in mind all the time as you're working with Rubin data products and the science platform is our community forum, which is a resource for you to obtain help, both from the community, anybody who has an account on the community forum, and Rubin staff who will be monitoring the community forum all the time. So if you go to community.lsst.org, it will look something like this. Sorry, things might alternate between dark mode and light mode because I usually use dark mode, but I often switch things to light mode. So apologies for bouncing between black and white here. But the community forum will look something like this when you log in. And I should note that anybody can sign up for an account on the community forum. So please feel free to do so. So you see there's a banner at the top that gives you lots of guidance about how to use things. You can also collapse that banner if you don't want to see it all the time. But then you can just see there are topics here that people have posted where you can see a lot of these are questions about authentication because lots of people are requesting new accounts right now. But then you can also see that there are categories. So there's a news category. There is support, which is where you would ask for help with issues with the science platform, for example. There are places for discussions of science as well. Um, and there are private groups for science collaborations. If you're a member of a science collaboration, you'll get invited to one of those. Um, so this is a resource for you to ask questions whenever you have issues. And so basically, if I went here and I wanted to ask, say I'm having an issue with the science platform and I want to ask a new question, I just go to this button that says new topic. And I create a new topic. I type a title. That's a very informative title. I select a category. I say I want to put it in support. You can also add additional tags. You post here and you can create this topic, and then it will get a response at some point. And you can probably see some of these. I don't know if there's a really good example here. For example, this one, has 14 responses, where the initial query was here. You'll see lots of conversation happening, and you're welcome and encouraged to participate in that conversation. And you'll also see something where when the initial question has reached a resolution, we mark it as solved. So you can use that then as sort of if you have the same issue, this can be your solution. And so you can go and search. If you're having an issue, you can go use the search window on the community forum here to find topics that are relevant to the issue that you're having. Oops, sorry. I would like to mention that there is a users committee. The Rubin Users Committee is made up of these 12 people listed here. Their role is to gather feedback from you, the community, about the data products and the science platform, and then to recommend improvements to the directorate of the project. So this is your way of getting your feedback filtered to the project. So the users committee is a resource for you, and they're always happy to hear from you. So there's information here about how to get in touch with them. Okay, so a little bit about the data policy. What we refer to as data rights holders, people who have the right to access data, include any scientist or student affiliated with an institution in the United States or in Chile. And in addition to that, there are named members of the international in-kind contribution teams. And so there's a list here of international data rights holders. And if your name appears on this list, you also have been granted data rights. And so what does that get you? That gets you access to the data release products, such as Data Preview 1, which will be released today, all of the images and catalogs and everything, which you access via the Rubin Science platform. Things that are public worldwide without need for data rights include the alert packets once we are issuing alerts. Those are world public, and then all of the data will be public after 2 years. And of course, all the documentation and the community forum are free for anybody worldwide to use. Okay, so the science platform, which I mentioned, is the way for you to access Rubin data products. We are going to be producing a vast data set that you will not be able to just download to your local machine and do all of the analysis. So you need a venue to log in and work next to the data. And that is the purpose of the Rubin Science platform. And so you'll hear about the 3 aspects of the Rubin Science platform. There's API remote access. There is a notebook aspect. where you log in. And if you're familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, that is where you'll work in a Jupyter Notebook with access to the Rubin Science pipelines and the data products. And then the portal aspect, which you'll see in action in just a few minutes, for more exploratory access to the data products. There's a lot more documentation regarding the Rubin Science platform, which we'll call the RSP. You'll hear RSP all the time, so get used to that one. The Rubin Science platform, you can see the documentation at rsp.lsst.io. I will just click there, and if I can get, oh, sorry, the meeting controls are blocking my access. Excuse me while I get rid of those. There we go. Right, so at rsp.lsst.io, you see there are user guides for all three of the aspects, the portal, notebook, and API. You can learn about updates, and of course all the instructions for signing up, which you will definitely want if you do not yet have an account. So if you don't yet have an RSP account, you can go ahead and register for one right now. And in fact, you can go, there's a link here. Oh, I should ask, I don't know if anyone wants to, from CST is able to share slides. But you can go to ls.st/RSP signup. And there is a lot of detail about setting up an account. It's actually really easy. Don't be intimidated by all the verbiage. It's important, but you can do it. I'm confident. You can also see from the rsp.lsst.io, sign up for an account. And so what you want to do is first, make sure that you understand that, like, yes, I have data rights. And then you will need to sign up. We use something called In Common for the authentication. So if you're at an institution that has an In Common, or is affiliated with In Common, you can just use, like, say, your university account. But if you're not, if you don't see yourself on the list, which you'll see in a sec, you can use a GitHub account or Orchid or others. And these are third-party identity providers that we use to confirm that you're a real person. And then there are some policies, and then follow these steps. You will make sure you need to use your an email address that you check regularly. And if you use your institutional identity, that makes it much easier for us to verify your data rights. If you know that you had an account at some point, but you don't remember what identity provider you used or what your, haven't accessed it in a long time, you can let us know in the chat. Note this line right here. Let us know your full name and email, and staff who are on the call right now can look up your account and let you know what identity provider you used, and hopefully you'll be able to log back in. And of course, as always, you are welcome to, if you're having any other issue, to post in the community forum, as I mentioned earlier. Once you've set up an account, even if you set up an account a long time ago, we recommend that you link a second identity provider to the account. This basically gives you sort of a backup so that you have two different ways of logging in. And this is especially important if you changed institutions and it's linked to a now obsolete account. This will give you a way to continue accessing the RSP. So you can see again on the rsp.lsst.io page, you can see instructions on how to link a second identity provider. This is very useful. And we do recommend you do that. Okay, so what does this RSP account get you? It will get you access to the data preview 1 data and eventually future data releases via all 3 of the aspects I mentioned, the API, portal, and notebook aspects. This is the way to access Rubin LSST data products. You need an RSP account to do that. Oops. Specifically, if you're in the notebook aspect, what's basically a Jupyter Lab environment, you will have access to some minimal amount of computing power, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 35 gigabytes of personal storage space. There is a way for you to create groups that you can manage the membership to for sharing files amongst each other. And one of the very important aspects is a software environment that's maintained by Rubin staff that gives you access to the LSST science pipelines and lots of commonly used software that you'll need to work with the data products. So the first of the aspects that I wanted to very briefly mention is, I mentioned there's an API access method. The way you can access data products remotely using things like the PyVO package or Topcat is documented at rsp.lsst.io. There's an API guide that will teach you how to do this. And basically you set up a user token. And once you have that token and it's set up properly, then you can remotely access data via clients like Topcat or PyVO and things like that. So do check that out. I'm not going to go into that more right now, but do check that out if you're interested. And I believe we have a tutorial on how to do that as well. Okay, so now I want to show you the RSP, just a brief whirlwind tour of the different aspects and how you work with those. So first thing, log in at data.lsst.cloud. When you click data.lsst.cloud, I apologize. Most of you will not be able to follow along in real time right now because, as you can see, this is closed for renovations in preparation for the Data Preview 1 release, which is coming today. But our team needs to do some work behind the scenes, so this is closed for access to most users. So for this particular session, you won't be able to follow along yourself, but just I will show you many aspects of this, and you can check it out later today on your own. Okay, so when I go to data.lsst.cloud, this is what is presented to me. You see there are lots of links for more information at the top, and then you can see these 3 large boxes these are actually clickable. So you can click this to go to the portal, click this to go to the notebook, click this to learn about how to access things via API. And you can see up in the upper right, there's also a login button. So if I click that, so you can either, if you're not logged in, you can either click on one of these and it'll take you to the login page, or you can just click on the login at the top. And then it will ask you to select an identity provider. In this case, I am registered using Orchid. And so when I go here, it actually defaults to showing me the provider that I've used in the past. So I will log in. It remembers me because I logged in earlier today, but usually it'll prompt you for your password for that identity provider. So in this case, I would put in my ORCID password and it would log me in. So let's first take a look at the portal. So you see I clicked on that large button that says portal, and it takes me here. And now you can see at the top you have numerous or a few tabs. Here you have DP1 images, DP1 catalogs, and then a few others. I'm going to focus on the DP1 because that's the exciting thing that's coming out today. And you can also see there's a drop-down menu over here on the side with additional options, including data preview 0, which is still available to you. Okay, so let's go first, take a look at an image. So how do you query for images? When you click this DP1 Images tab, you'll see something like this. So this is the user interface to query for images, and you see there's a list of 36 columns here that you can provide constraints on, but you can also just use the interface here on the left. So we're going to just enter a position on the sky, which I know is in the DP1 data in this location section. So by default, it's going to show you observation boundary contains point. And then you just enter RA, comma, dec. You can see other examples of how you could enter that. And then in addition, let's go click on this observation type and source at the top, and you can see it's currently minimized, but you can expand that. And now you'll see that I can select calibration level. And what we want, say I'm going to look at a COAD image. So I'm going to click on this level 3. And once I do that, these menus will become available to you to select an image. We want LSST ComCam collection data preview 1. And then here I can select the image subtype that I want. And so I could select difference images. I could select template images. I'm going to pick a deep COAD image, overlapping that position that I entered here. And I'm going to leave everything else at its defaults. And I'm going to click the blue search button in the corner here. And you can see if you expect your result to return many entries, you can limit the rows. Or if you're just testing something out, you could say, just give me the 10 first ones. So here we're gonna search. You'll see it churning away, and you see we got a results page that shows a table of the results. So there are 6 images, and in fact you can see that they correspond to the 6 different filters, U, G, R, I, Z, Y. There is 1 image in each band for this position on the sky. And you can see by default, it's always going to show you up here a plot of the RA and dec for all the entries from the table. That's not super useful right now. We're more interested in the image because we just did an image search. But you can see the I-band image is highlighted here. If I go and click the Y-band image, it will change what is displayed. And in fact, if I want to see all of them at the same time, I can click this. There we are. I was hoping for that tooltip to show up. This button that says tile all images in the search result table. And when I click that, sorry, my Zoom window just disappeared. There we go. When I click that, you can see all 6 images. Now this display is not laid out in the most convenient way, but I can adjust the sizes of the different windows. I can go like that and move this chart to the side, make it tiny since it's not super useful. And you can do various things interacting with the images, which we'll save for future tutorials. But just to demonstrate one, if I lock all of the images by WCS, by their sky coordinates, basically, then if I go here and zoom on one image, you see all of them zoom to the same position. So that they move together as I move them around. And so you can see there's this beautiful train wreck galaxy down in the corner here. You can see it in the various bands. There's I, R, U, G, Z, and Y. And another thing you can do to change the layout of the display here is you can click this little hamburger menu at the upper left. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you see in the results layout, you can select options here. And so by default, it gives you images, charts, and tables, the 3 different boxes. But you could also just go here and say, I want only the, let's see, probably we want the table and the images. So let's do that. And so you can change the screen layout using that feature. And I can make the image larger. Now it's showing me the coverage images. There we are. There's our 6 images. And so now you can see it takes up a little more screen real estate and is much more useful. So there are lots of other things you can do with the portal and with this Firefly image display, which we will not get into right at this moment, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of what that looks like. Now, from here, you can go back to any of those tabs that are available at the top. So let's say now I want to go look at catalogs in this same area of the sky. I can click on the DP1 catalogs, and it takes me to this user interface. Note that I can click back on results and it'll take me back to the images that I had open. So any active results will still be there for you. So if I go here to the DP1 catalogs page, you can see there are these drop downs at the top. It's selected DP1 by default, but you'll also note that you can access the data preview 0 data from here. And then in this menu, you can see table count 11. So there are 11 different tables available to you. And you see, when you click on it, you see a brief description of what each of those tables contains. So they're just, I think, in alphabetical order. Yes, alphabetical order. I'm going to select one right now. We're going to select the one called object table. This is the table of measurements from the deep co-added images. So if I click that, you'll see that the interface changes to give me the list of all of the columns that are part of that object table. In the case of the object table, there are almost 1,300 columns of data. So this scroll could go for a while. But then you can see here, you have an interface to do searches. Again, spatial searches. In this case, you can do for the catalog searches. You also have temporal options, so you can select images taken between certain dates, or I should say, data that were obtained between certain dates. You can see at the bottom that you can search based on an object ID if you already know the object ID. We're gonna stick with a spatial search again. I think this is actually remembering what I had just entered in the previous one. But just to be sure, we're going to go enter minus 53 or 53 minus 28. That's right ascension and declination again. And I will select just a couple of columns here. So you can select all columns, which I don't recommend for object table since it has 1300. You can select all of them by clicking that, but let's not do that. I know I want RA and DEC. They are coord RA, coord DEC, but then say I also want the PSF magnitudes. I can go into this box where it says the column names, and I can say PSF mag, and then hit enter. And if there's something that matches that string in any of the column names, it will pop up right here. So indeed, it showed me some matches because I knew that in advance that there were going to be some, but let's say I want the GIR magnitudes. And of course, this also shows you a description of what each of these columns is. So I have selected those three plus the coordinates. And now I am going to, oh, I didn't change the radius. Let's change this radius as well. I'm going to select the radius. You can see it defaults to 10 arc minutes, a very small radius, so you don't get a massive result. I'm going to change this to arc minutes and select 1 arc minute. And then I'm going to, we'll also note that temporal was selected at first, and I had to deselect it. So I deselect that, and then I'm going to search, and you will see that executing fairly quick. And you can see at the top here that this returned 395 objects within that 1 arc minute search radius. And so now I have the RA and DEC coordinates of them, and I have the G, R, and I magnitudes that I requested. And if I didn't already have images open here, the default view would show you those. In fact, I don't know why I'm not seeing them. Right, there. It will show you those sources overlaid on a coverage map, which is in this case the R band deep coed image. And so you can actually see, hopefully you can see that. You can see these magenta colored points overlaid. Apologies, okay. Overlaid on that coverage map. And so what you can see also is if I click on one of these, it highlights it in the table. Likewise, if I click on an entry in the table, it will highlight that in the image. So this gives you a way to navigate. Let's go back and change the, actually, let's not change it. Let's keep the, you see now that because I changed the window to include only the two side by side, that we can toggle to the plot window by clicking here to show the active chart. But we could also go back to the original view where it showed 3 panels. Let's do that. There we go. And so now you can see this is that plot of the RA DEC coordinates. Again, if I click on a point there, it will highlight it both in the image and in the table. So there you go. And I also wanted to show you that that you can apply constraints in the columns. So let's say I only want things G magnitude brighter than 23. So I can just in this box enter, less than 23. I click enter, it filters the table, and now you can see that there are only 5 objects in that 1 arc minute that we searched that have G magnitudes brighter than 23rd magnitude. And you can do a lot more things in this view, but we don't have time to get into that right now. Stay tuned for future tutorials. One final thing on the portal that I wanted to mention, if the Zoom stuff wasn't in my way, there we go, is that there is this button that says populate and edit ADQL. So if I entered some constraints here, as I did, we set up our query, and then I want to see what that looks like in the query language itself, I can click that button, and then it takes me to this window. You can also just get to that window by toggling this view at the upper right between the UI assisted, which is what we were looking at before, and the edit ADQL. So you can always get to this. And you'll see there's some guidance here, and there's information on the schema for each table to help you decide what columns to include. But then you can see it actually gives you the query that is being run behind the scenes. And you can go and then use that as a starting point to edit that and refine it to do what you want to do. So this is another way of sort of learning how to hone your queries. And again, if I go there and then I just click search, it's going to do that same query that we did before. Again, 395 results. Excellent. Okay, so that's all I was going to say about the portal right now. We don't have a ton of time left, so I want to show you the notebook aspect next. I should pause briefly and see if there are any burning questions. I see lots of questions that are being answered in the chat. Excellent. Okay, so, oops, sorry, wrong window. There we go. So let's go back to data.lsst.cloud. We are going to go to the notebook aspect now. So again, I go back here and I click on that notebooks button, and it'll take me to this page where generally, unless you know you have a very specific reason to select a different version of the container, that you can just select the recommended release. These are just different versions of the pipeline software and associated packages. So typically recommended is fine, a large container. If you're only going to be doing some very minimal stuff, you can select a small container. I'm gonna stick with large for now and click start, and you'll see this startup page, which will take a second. And it's starting up a pod that you work within. And hopefully will not take too long. Okay, and when this opens, it should always, or almost always anyway, show you this welcome page, which just has some useful links for you that, for example, the community forum, RSP documentation, the Rubin Observatory website, and DP1 website. So this will appear. If you don't need this right now, you can just click the little X on the tab at the top, and that will disappear. By default, I think this file browser will usually be open. So mine was closed, I guess, because I had it closed before. But then you'll see that this puts you into, this is basically a file browser that this bar at the left is showing you. And so to show me that welcome page, it put me into this folder, this notebooks tutorials folder. If I want to go to my home folder within the science platform, I can just click on this folder icon. That will take me to the top level. Yours will not have this many files. But you will see just a couple of things. You'll see notebooks in there. and I think a couple of these other folders. I honestly don't recall. An important thing is this launcher, which is showing because I don't have any other windows open, but you can also, if I go and you can go and click this plus, this blue plus button, and that will bring up the launcher as well. You can see now there's two open. You can also go under the file menu and a new launcher. And this is where you can launch a new notebook. So if I click on this button, it will launch a new notebook. And this is a Jupyter Lab notebook running Python. I can enter Python commands. I can also go here, as I mentioned, you can open a terminal. This is like a Unix or Linux terminal that you may be familiar with. And when you open it, it tells you how to set up the LSST science pipelines, for example. But you can do typical Unix things like working with your files, changing directories, all of that kind of stuff. So that is available to you as well. Notice also in the left, in addition to this file browser where you have, folders and files accessible, there are a few other options you can click. This one would give you a table of contents. If I had a notebook open, that would show you this. These others manage different settings. We'll come back to the table of contents in one sec. So to open the tutorial notebooks that we've provided for you, you can go to this menu at the top that says tutorials. When I click that, it drops down and you can see we still have the data preview 0 tutorials available. We're going to look at a data preview 1, DP1. And you can see it'll cascade to the different subfolders of notebooks that are available to you. And you can see there are a whole bunch of them. We've been working away, preparing lots of tutorials for you all. So I'm going to just bring up the very first how to use a notebook. And when I click it, you can see that this tells me, oh, you've already opened this before. It already exists. Is it okay to overwrite it? This gives you an opportunity, if you've made changes to that notebook before, you can move it aside so that it doesn't get overwritten in your notebooks directory. I'm okay with overwriting it for now. But that then will overwrite it in this notebooks directory that you see in your home, notebooks tutorials. And then you see there's DP1, 100 level, 101, Jupyter Lab, and there's that 101_2. Note that you can also change the windows here. Okay, so then now I have this how to use a notebook open. This is for those who are familiar with Jupyter notebooks. This is just Python. You can execute. And this is very basic. This is a good place to get started. If you're not familiar with Jupyter notebooks, it explains the different types of cells. For example, this is a markdown cell, which is, you can see by this drop down at the top, the different types of cells are markdown, raw, and code. So markdown is so that we can put nicely formatted text like this, whereas this is a code cell. This executes Python code. In this case, we just print something. And the way you do that is either you can click the little run button. It looks like a play button on a, I don't know, cassette player, let's say, on your Walkman. I know, sorry for the archaic reference, but anyway, I can click that and it'll execute. Or I can click in the cell hold down the Shift button and hit Enter, and it executes the cell. I mentioned this table of contents menu earlier. Now you can see, since we're in a notebook that actually has sections, this table of contents, when you open it, will actually allow you to navigate the sections within a notebook. So this is very handy. I confess that I don't use it enough. It is very handy. There are also, I encourage you to explore the various menus here. Important things, if I just wanted to execute this entire notebook, I could go here to the Run menu. You can see I can run the selected cell, or I could run everything above the cell that's currently highlighted, or I could just run all the cells in the notebook. I could just execute the whole thing by clicking this. Another thing that is important to remember is the kernel menu. Say you kick something off and you're like, oh shoot, that's not what I meant to do. And it's churning away and you just want to stop it. You can click the little stop button again on your Walkman controls here. Or you can go to the restart kernel and actually say, restart everything. I didn't want that. I'm gonna start from scratch. And that will, it will clear all of the variables and things that you had loaded, but it will also take you to a clean notebook. So that is an important thing to keep in mind. And so we have just a few minutes. I wanted to show you one more feature before we finish up. Let's go to a different tutorial. Again, it's a DP1 tutorial under the 100 level, under Image Access and Display. We're going to go to Image Display with Firefly. Again, I opened this last night, so it tells me, do you want to overwrite it? I'm happy with that. Okay, so, I should also note that you can minimize this sidebar by just clicking on one of the icons and it minimizes it for you. Okay, so this one, I just want to show you, in part because you get to see a pretty picture, and in part because I want to show you that you can open in a different tab here. You see when I executed this cell, where it tells it basically open the Firefly image display, you see that it popped open in a different tab. Now I can go switch between all of those tabs that I have open. But another nifty thing you can do is you can actually just grab with your mouse, grab that tab and move it. And now you can see the top half is highlighted blue. Let's move it to the side here. And now the right half is highlighted blue. And if I drop that, now you can see that my windows are side by side. And so now if I display an image, which let's do that right now, I can actually see that rather than having to go and toggle between tabs. That should display immediately. And it's going to look wacky at first. And that's because by default, it's showing all of the mask planes, which tells you which pixels were part of a detected object and all that. Let's get rid of that and just see the pretty picture. And now you can see you have that image displayed. You can go and interact with it in the Firefly display. And if you want that to go back to full screen, then you can grab that tab, move it over here until just the tab bar is highlighted. And if I drop it, now I have this in the full view. And of course, I can switch back to my notebook and do more stuff in the notebook there. Okay, and I think that takes us to the end of the time that we've set aside today. And I think that covered most of the very basic things I wanted to show you. And we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to have an introduction to Data Preview 1. So if you're interested, do stick around for that. And I am happy to take any questions that people have. And we will post the Zoom recordings after the um, they become available. I lost my Zoom controls. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and take a roughly 10-minute break. And at the hour, 9 a.m. Pacific, we will resume with an introduction to Data Preview 1. So join us for that. And of course, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have open Q&A time the hour following that. So if you have any questions or issues that you're encountering, do pop in and we'll be available to chat. And thanks for your attention.